Warner got a haircut.
And we have some great things to accomplish together. So with that, I'd like to...
There's going to be some interesting testimonies here, and I know I said I didn't want to watch these anymore because they just make me crazy, but today's important because this is where they're going to... They figured out a way to supersede the Oregon Constitution here. By passing an ordinance, and they're going to continue their fair inspections.
I've been following it in the paper. It's a fancy.
Good morning, everybody.
If you remember in that last meeting, the lawyer for Trimet said, "Well, we have nothing to do with it. Like we have clean hands." We're not part of it,
and I wanted to
because we didn't write the citation.
Actually took the
It was the police, and we didn't have anything to do with it because it's Mr. Underhill, who's the district attorney, who she forgot to tell that we pay special fee for his services. Other than that, we have nothing to do with it.
Yeah, the hypocrisy. I just can't. It's hard enough to get through the day without having to be exposed to these lying elitist hypocrites.
I have run into people, and I've just, and I've used the analogy. I said, "Do you give your kids an allowance?" And you say, "Yeah." Do you expect something from them before you give it to them? You lay out the rules and what's expected. Yeah. I said, so you wouldn't just give them hundreds of dollars a week and just say, "When you run out, come see me for more."
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the same thing. You're right.
I mean, these, and not only that,
wait, here comes the first.
Other than the board members, Trimet management is essentially appointed for life.
My Metro Council district.
Right.
I really value the partnership that Metro has with Trimet.
Okay, here's
we've been working together for 40 years now, very closely. When that first.
By the way, did I tell you the
comes to Gresham, and
story about
to soon learning
one of our members in my trolley
from the federal government, from the Federal Transport Administration, to be able to get the construction going for
the last board meeting
project.
And said, "Do you know such and such?" And the name didn't ring a bell. And I said, "Not really." I said, "Well, she asked me, do you know me?" And I said, "Oh, yes, I know Neal. He's,
and then when we're ready, we pass it over to you, and you begin that
she came up and asked me, "Do you know me?" He's an old Trimet operator, and he said, "Oh, yeah, he's a member of my society." And she just went, "Oh." It's he told me, he said, "It's a relative of his who's the board member, the one with the dark hair gal. Not this one, the other, what is it, Bauman or?"
Yeah, Bauman, yeah. What?
And I just laughed. I said, "I'm sure I'm not, on her,
you're not on
this card list."
Projects now. The Southwest quarters and just.
And he said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, one, I'm Jewish, and two, she probably hasn't liked any of my remarks."
I'm sure not.
Along that line, and I've been impressed.
So our
I
viewership
hope that we will soon find a way to
definitely does not always reflect actually in numbers the people who are actually probably viewing in.
No, I know that. I'm aware of that.
And by the way, have you sort of noticed that I've sort of followed? I'm learning because I don't understand always the terms shadow boxing.
Yeah.
That you and I have been. That I'll make a comment on a Trimet public
reduce our greenhouse gas emissions from transportation-related,
and it just disappears.
Means by at least 25% over the next 30 years. That we can actually double that.
It doesn't surprise me. I don't comment on their Trimet stuff very often. Once in a while, I'll put something on there, but
Well, the one that got me was the free T-shirt giveaway.
Yeah, I try to stay away from the Trimet people as much as possible. You know, they're doing their thing, I'm doing my thing, and I don't really want to interact with them, you know.
I mean, my comment was, do you really think it's free?
Right.
You don't know how much you pay for that shirt.
Exactly. It's just advertising, right? They're just getting people to advertise for them.
You know, and I don't know whether you read that post, but the ending was, don't think it's yours, because at one time, if they really need it, they're going to take it off your back.
Exactly. What the hell?
And by the way, have you followed all of a sudden with the after the final adoption of the Southwest Corridor route Amanda Fritz and a bunch of people are crying, "Oh no, it's coming through my front yard."
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's a really.
Ladies, where have you been for the last 2 years?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, nobody really nobody really knows what's going on here, man. They don't. The general public has no idea.
Right. And so it's a little late.
Yeah. It's a little.
In the order in which they've signed.
All right. Well, we're gonna have some interesting testimonies here, I think. So.
Is this the new one that's going on?
This is one right now. Yeah, this is live.
Oh, right now. I was just still trying to get through the last one.
I haven't really done anything with the last one at all. I needed a break.
It wasn't that exciting. It essentially was pretty boring.
Open a separate public hearing on the ordinances required.
Yeah, I can't really handle these people very much. But there's a couple things here today that I do want to hear.
They said they were coming up with this new ordinance.
Yeah, their ordinance is going to supersede the Constitution.
And it's sort of the same predicament Mr. Wheeler is in.
Yeah, right.
Who issued his new decree.
So with that, I'm going to start.
Rather than complying and doing things right, their Trimet is determined to keep things the way they are.
But we're going to bring up two at a time.
All right, here we go.
There's a timer there. You can see it. It'll show yellow when we got 30 seconds.
Yeah. How dare you?
What was the public testimony? Anything interesting?
On this one? No, it's just starting now.
Complete your testimony.
It's just starting. The board meeting is just starting right now.
First, ask to come up.
This is live.
Yeah, okay, I was looking at the time.
All right, who we get first here? Let's see. Oh, there's a raincoat guy. That's Opal. He wears his raincoat as a symbol of.
Yeah, I picked this guy up many a times.
Good morning.
Let's
see you. Yeah. As most of you know, I am Keith Schultz. I'm a Gresham resident and member of Bus Riders Unite. For those of you who are new to this, I wear this raincoat as a reminder that I'm concerned about the lack of transparency in some of the board's decisions here. And since I moved to Gresham 22 years ago, I've lived in the Portland area for about 45 of my 65 years, but I've lost the privilege to drive. So transit is very important to me. And I am now officially a senior citizen since I turned 65 this last August, and I'll leave the comments from BRU to others. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Appreciate your comments. And nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you. His lack of transparency, did you get it, Warner?
Board President Warner, Chairman Board of Directors. My name is John Amundsen, and I'm a fellow with Environment Oregon, a statewide citizen-funded environmental advocacy organization, and I'm here today to extend a hearty and sincere thank you for adopting the non-diesel bus strategy and committing to transitioning to a zero-emission fleet by 2040.
Yeah, that's nice.
This action will protect our public health by improving air quality and help us to fight climate change.
This is not some kind of isolated event. This is being done nationally at all kinds of different transit districts.
So thank you so much for your leadership on this issue, and thanks for
what we won't hear is that this policy and these buses do not live up to expectations.
The next two folks,
they will go the same way as the biodiesel. They will go the same way.
And it's 20 years ahead. I mean, who knows if we'll plan, and if the planet will even
go the same way. Did you ever drive the natural gas buses?
No, I never had one.
Yeah, you were around when they were.
I was there, but I never actually drove one.
My God, your life was, you had everyone's life in your hands, every passenger as well as your own. As you tried to get up a slight incline and cross the railroad max track as the train was bearing down.
Hold on, let's listen. Yeah, I remember they were pieces of shit. Okay, wait.
Still waiting for the bus. I talked to some of my neighbors, and somebody from Trimet several years ago promised them they'd have bus service. They're still waiting on a promise that's probably not going to come true. 5 of my other neighbors are here today to ask where the buses are too. So you'll be hearing from all of them. Ron's one of them. And I know you're doing improvements on the division bus line, and that's a good 35 minutes away. Many of my neighbors can't get to Stark. Many of my neighbors aren't here today because there's no bus service to get here. Max is just not doable. There's still sidewalks that don't even have pavement on them. You have to walk in the dirt. I was thinking that you can run a bus down 174th, swing it up Burnside, circle around, and maybe head down Powell, because the Powell bus service in East County isn't as good. But we do need bus service. We can't get to the stores. We can't get to Heidi's. We can't get to the urgent care on Burnside. I have actually ridden to the far end of the line and walked to Rite Aid to get my prescriptions, and it's really scary crossing those streets, and it took me quite an extensive time to walk. Right now I have a brace on my ankle, which is painful and harder to do. But a bus going up Burnside would be a lot shorter hiking from the parking lot, and I wasn't even sure exactly how to get there the first time I did that. So where's the bus service? You guys get federal funding. I have 190 neighbors in the building, senior building, and there's 63 across the street. And let's see. Please get us bus service.
My question to this lady is, how long do you plan on living?
2017, of my neighbors have passed. As of today,
yeah, if you don't get it by now, man, you're not going to get it. Okay.
Hello, I'm Ron Withers, and I'm a resident at the same place that she lives at. We need a bus line here on Burnside and Civic Drive because there are a lot of residents, people need it, especially senior citizens who can't get around very well, especially to the shopping areas on Burnside, to Segway, Winco, and Fred Meyer's. Also to urgent care when needed on Powell Valley Road. I would appreciate you would take this under consideration, and I have a lot of people that would benefit from it.
And I'm sure that will help, huh?
I live at 1003 Northwest Shattuck Way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
For Vern Wilson and Shaheen Dupi, if I pronounce that correctly.
Shaheen Dupi.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Vern Wilson. I also live on 1003 Northwest Shattuck Way.
1003.
I know a lot of my neighbors in the building, seniors in the building, can't walk down to the max stop. And and I think we do need bus service on Burnside Road. And thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jeannie Dupé, and I will speak on the same topic.
Well, they got together.
I am actually, we cannot walk to the Max. We cannot walk to Division, and it's 9 blocks to Stark. And with the bus business, with that lift, we can wait 2 hours. And if they come sometimes, we can wait 2 hours for come to get us. And actually, some of us get weak on that bus waiting and stuff. And when we get on the bus, they make routes. That's a long time for the elderly, disabled, and things like that. And it's very difficult for the elderly. And it does cost more on the lift. If there was a bus, which I hope somebody does something immediately, with the Honored Citizen Pass, it would be a very much reduction in cost for that. Thank you.
What?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next to Howie Beerbell
Say that
and
there should
Stephen
be no
Lynch.
additional bus service.
Yeah.
Very simple. Let's use their logic. If these older, elderly people don't get on the bus, the chances of them being assaulted
Good morning, all. I'm Howie Beerbaum, Acting Executive Director of the Portland Saturday Market, and I'm here to express my concern for the possible closure of the Skidmore Fountain Max Stop. This proposal, which will save perhaps 30 seconds of ride time, is problematic for a number of reasons. Number one, closing the station will require more passengers to load and unload at the next or previous station, which will take additional time. Was a queue and dwell analysis evaluated on whether this will actually add to the wait time at those stops?
By the way, I think this whole thing is public relations. I don't think they'll ever close any Max stops downtown. Maybe Kingshill.
Savings with your proposal. Two, saving 30 seconds will reduce passenger convenience and doesn't seem like a
Do you think they're going to actually do it?
Outcome.
Oh yeah,
You do?
They're going to do it. They did it with the streetcar, and they saw how the city of Portland, who essentially runs streetcar, it's not a Trimet thing.
No,
Other than
so
operators and maintenance.
So it works. It works well.
Fountain stop where thousands of passengers access Portland Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to closing Saturday market stop.
There were tons of complaints. They picked up a total of 90 seconds for doing that, which really has not solved anything.
Yeah.
And it's a fact that the Skidmore Fountain stop is one of the busiest Max stops on weekends, which makes its potential closure all the more questionable and unreasonable. In summary, saving perhaps 30 seconds of commuter time seems like a minuscule time reduction that ultimately creates negative impacts for passengers, visitors, businesses, and downtown Portland economic health. Educating passengers to unload and load in a more efficient manner, such as New York subway's stand-aside, speed-the-ride signs on the loading platforms, would reduce station stop time. Increasing frequency of service could also speed the ride by reducing the number of passengers loading and unloading. Before eliminating stops important to downtown Portland's vitality, other techniques need to be explored and implemented. Not everyone on the Max is headed to Intel and Nike.
Yeah, no, he's
thinking in terms of the greater
he's got it thought out, rational, logical.
For any mass transit
I mean, he's right.
Yeah.
You're going to put more people at the other stops, and it's just going to take longer.
Right.
By the way,
You'll see more.
the solution that he was talking about was
Everybody's wondering what we're talking
implemented
about here.
over
One of the things
100
we hear
years
about a
ago.
lot is the
on
time it takes to
trolleys.
get from one side of the
You're
region
in
to
one
the
door,
other. So
out
anything we
the
can do
other.
Right.
to speed up our system is good. And we're talking about stops that we may close. No decisions have been made. Want to make sure everybody understands that. But this is why we're having this input. So thank you for
It is
coming.
why we're
Thanks for
having.
hearing me.
Yeah, sure it is.
Hello, good morning. My name is Stephen Lynch, and I am the youngest on Shattuck Way at Gresham Station Apartments. And boy, if we had a bus stop out there on 20, I mean, Winco, Fred Meyer, Walmart, where Burnside and Powell meet, just to get it that far. I've got a community there that,
Why can't they jog into that area there? What's the big deal?
Do
Do you know where he's talking about, Neal?
Houses there, and there's
Burnside.
Like the boy said, the sidewalk.
There's no bus there? You gotta be kidding me.
That's hard for me to. I'm trying to picture that.
Kmart is closing their doors, and they were the closest walking distance store on Burnside there. And they're closing within the next few weeks. They're selling out. The shelves are there. I was in there yesterday. So for our community,
Kmart.
the ever-growing community,
yeah.
slated if they have an open field, they're probably going to put some.
That's part of these 2 years of bankruptcy.
Not to mention between wherever Burnside starts and coming up to here, that those few people in those apartment houses aren't gridlocked, And so, anyway, that's what I've discovered. I've only lived there 16 months.
I'm sure they can jog a route through there. I don't know. I don't know that area very well, but.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ken Bruce and Alexis Moyer.
The Three Stooges get there.
Where are they? In Gresham?
Yeah.
Morning, everybody. My name is Ken Bruce. I presently live in Elm, Washington, which is a little bit of a drive.
Elmo, Washington?
I'm here to talk to you about the form that or the situation you went through on eliminating our spouses.
Oh, Trimet employee.
I'm retired from Trimet.
Oh my God!
One of the reasons I retired was I came down with cancer. I started going to Rochester, Minnesota, to the Mayo Clinic, in which they have me leveled out now. So I'm doing good. But I also have family there, in which I went to see my family and to go through my medical checkup at Mayo Clinic. And the day before I left there, my ex-wife passed away. And so when I got home, I jumped in my car and I drove to Wyoming to help take care of business there. Consequently, I missed the paperwork for one reason. Second reason is they had my address turned around down at Trimet, which is all straightened out now. But people that are retired in Trimet don't always stay home. Sometimes we're on the road with a motorhome or whatever, and we're gone for 6 months. My bills are taken care of, so I don't need to worry about the mail. Anytime I make a bill, I have it taken care of by my bank. Okay. We all have phones. I have the same phone I had when I worked for Trimet, the same number. And Trimet could have at least give us a call and verified that my spouse was still with me. And instead, I went through a big rigmarole, which is an explanation, filling out lots of paperwork. I had to go to my boss now. I work 3 days a week, part-time. And he helped me get this done. But I think that Trimet could have at least made that step as far as calling, as far as cutting
calling, you're kidding me.
I'm
not going to call you.
For the insurance, that's all wrong. It's not right.
No.
My wife had a couple of situations. Am I done?
You're done, but if I ask you to just wrap up, please continue.
Okay. My wife had a couple of situations in between this period, and she's still not back on yet.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't understand why they don't have this easily fixable if there's a mistake like that.
Kind of where we are in that situation.
Well, first of all, he's retired. If he was an active employee, they would be more than glad to keep putting shoe leather up his rear. Now, once you're retired, they really could care less.
My name is Alexis Moyer. I'm 19 years old, and I grew up in Southeast Portland. I'm a member of the Multnomah Youth Commission on the Sustainability Committee for 5 years now. I will also be speaking, I'm going to be speaking on the State Transportation Improvement Fund and its relation to the minimum 1% student transportation allocation plan. So it's nice to be here around folks with Trimet faces and logos. I've always saw Trimet as people that care about civilian life.
They do.
My grandfather passed away coming up on 3 years now on the 30th, and he was a Trimet supervisor for about 30 years. So I've always associated Trimet with the kindness and the care that my grandfather exuberated.
A Trimet man.
Part of why I
a Trimet family. You're a Trimet family, Neal.
Have quite often ripped me away. Is to stay connected with society. Organizing is my passion, and I would not be able to participate in action to help people because I wouldn't be able to afford my own bus pass, as my organization provides me a bus pass. So I'm a 19-year-old young person. I live life without any financial or emotional support from my parents. So I pay up my own bills, I pay for all my own food, and whether or not I survive is dependent upon whether or not I show up for my fast food job. This is not as uncommon as most folks assume. There are many other young people like me, even younger than me, who do not have a safe house to go home to at night, who do not have access to a toilet, to a sink, who do not have access to a place to do their laundry, who are scared walking the streets of Portland regardless of whether or not there are sidewalks or lights. There are young people struggling daily to even enjoy life because our systems, our country, our city, our counties, our families are failing us. Our sacred young people are some of the most vulnerable victims to violence, and the least thing that they should be worried about in a city full of it is how they're going to afford $2.50 to ride the bus for the full next day. I've been here for 5 years to get to this table. The torch of who will fund Youth Pass has been passed far too long, far too many times. Marginalized people are pitted against each other for the bottom of the barrel type of money. We need sustainable funding for a program that creates access to opportunity and brings light to life. I know that young people are the writers of the future because I am one. I went to Portland Public Schools all my life, and when I got into high school and I was able to use the Youth Pass program, it completely changed my world, and I was able to just go to school and go to practice and just do so many things that I wouldn't have not been able to do otherwise with my single father of 4 children.
I see. Time's up.
Yeah. The NYC committee doesn't believe that this is the sole responsibility of Trimet. The city put $3 million into streetcar, and you all are putting money into a line into Southwest Portland.
Yeah, well, they always have money for capital projects.
Well, that capital project was the city of Portland. She's getting the
there, but it's prioritized elsewhere.
Well, they're talking about
money.
Yeah, well, there's money. Every governmental entity seems to find the money for these
But
capital.
that money that they got, that $2 million, is part of the 2017 stipend that the 10% Trimet has to give to other government entities.
The low-income fare program, to the relief that it would provide, as opposed to paying $250 for the fare?
Well, the $250, because I'm over 18, even though I didn't graduate high school.
But you can get the low-income fare, though.
But the low-income fare program allows some relief.
But it also doesn't apply to anybody under 18 years old.
Oh, what?
There is no low-income fare for young people.
Is that
I see young people 13 years old, 12 years old being denied access to the bus or talking about how they're going to afford for the next day.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow, that is a big loophole there.
Well, I would think that they would be covered under the school program, but if you're not in school, you don't get that pass either.
I don't know. I'm an advocate of fare-free transit, and I always have been.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have discussed this many times. The amount that they're spending, just the administration of the low income.
Yeah, it's a whole industrial
it's probably not equal.
Thank you for giving us the time to speak on this.
No, they lose money on it.
My name is Lane Schaefer, and I am 13 years old, currently attending Access Academy. And I am a member of the Multnomah Youth Commission. I am here to speak on the State Transportation Improvement Fund Plan, specifically the unmet need in student transportation funds. The youth of Portland have had to fight every year just to secure minimal funding for Youth Pass. We have heard every year that Youth Pass is a priority for youth and something that needs to be funded, and not just for a small fraction of youth on students on free or reduced lunch, but at the very minimum for all students on free and reduced lunches, especially for schools like David Douglas and Park Rose, which have over 60% of their student population on free and reduced lunch. There should be more effort and importance placed on securing the funds necessary to provide transit access to students, as it is vital to many students across high schools in Portland. According to multiple Park Rose and David Douglas students, Youth Pass provides them with the ability to stay for after-school programs, since the Yellow Bus program is limited, and Youth Pass has allowed them to be involved in their school community and work. Without it, they state that they would not have many of the volunteering opportunities that they have at the moment, that they would have to walk or try to find rides to various destinations and would not be able to participate in school sports or be able to work. We support the proposal to target funds to reach students on free or reduced lunch, as well as taking into account the geographic location of the students, so that students further away from school are prioritized over those that are closer.
At least 5.
And there needs to be transit access provided to all students. Pouring money into the electric bus program is great for the environment, no doubt, but it doesn't help if a large portion of youth can't ride these buses to get to the parks, libraries, and other parts of Portland that are accessible to those who are more privileged. I have utilized the transit system to get to multiple activities that have increased my life quality markedly, such as volunteering, sports, libraries, and parks. Trimet has allowed me to get to camps, odd jobs, and fun activities that would not have been possible without Trimet, as 2 working parents cannot take me everywhere. Youth Pass provides a doorway into opportunities that could change the course of a young person's life, allowing relationships that are built during school activities and volunteering to flourish, and makes the very things created for youth accessible to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Sandra Henning, and I live...
Why don't you pull that down towards you a little? There you go. Thank you.
I'm Sandra Henning, and I live at 1003 Northwest Chautauqua, which is between the Max Station and Division. And both of those require going up and down hills that are on pretty much of an incline for us. At the age that most of the residents are where I live, we have limited mobility, or at least we have to be very careful and have some assistance in how we're walking and moving about. The most recent experience that I've had is I was going for heart testing yesterday morning. I got on the bus at 7 o'clock. My appointment was at 9, and I was a few minutes late for my appointment.
That's that lovely lift service.
That is a very long time for someone who is not well to be riding the bus, and I'm not at all a single person in that situation. So I'm hoping that when they consider putting in more transportation or different stops, that they think about the terrain of where they're putting it. If we want to ride the division bus, we have to walk down a hill, and then we have to walk up a pretty steep hill. That's not even including the schedule or the time that we would be catching the bus. And that also would not be Trimet. That would be the regular bus transportation.
Right.
So those are two concerns that I have, and I think it's very easy. And I know myself, I thought when I was young, what are these people talking about? They're retired. They can do whatever they want. That's not so. That's just not so.
You didn't figure that out ahead of time.
We need a little bit of help in that area. Thank you.
Well, maybe you'll get a bus, but don't hold your breath.
Yeah, she's not going to live long enough.
President Shirley Block from the
here's Shirley.
Oh my God!
Lopez,
Shirley showed up.
Yeah.
It's only taken. How long has it been?
She hasn't been there in a while. It's been, I don't know, a long time.
Oh yeah. Now let's see if she's actually really prepared and doesn't ramble.
Well, she's not a great speaker, you know that, but that's what I like about her. Is she's the opposite of the Trimet executives. Okay. She's really she's been around a long time now, so let's see how she handles it.
Good morning, Chair Warner and Trimet Board.
This should be good.
For the record, my name is Shirley Block, President ATU 757. I'm here today to talk about Trimet's recent process to verify dependents and employees' health and the way that harmed dozens of families. For the public benefit, let me summarize. Trimet recently contracted with an out-of-state company called Mercer to verify whether employees' dependents were still eligible to remain on Trimet health insurance. Employees were required to send in specific documents to Mercer, like marriage license certificates, tax return, utility bills, children's birth certificates, etc. The goal was to cut costs by identifying people who were ineligible for health insurance through the company. The reality, however, is that dozens of eligible dependents were kicked off the insurance because they could not get complete documentation into Mercer on time. When those families appealed for the loss of their insurance coverage, some were reinstated, some were denied. Unfortunately, Trimet response has been to blame the families themselves for losing their coverage. Your staff has been clear. People have the chance to submit documents, and you believe that there was no other reason that anyone could possibly miss the deadline. It seems like the agency thinks of all of us just sit around and all day, waiting for a chance to jump through hoops and send in forms to some faceless corporation. The reality is that many people miss your deadline for a perfectly good reason. We talked to many people, and I personally, who are busy caring for sick loved ones. And I tear up when I say this because I have one family that had major issues. I mean, huge issue. And I knew the family personally, so it really hurts me to talk about this family. So I'm going to skip this one because I can't do this. Anyway, retired families travel for a good chunk of their years and didn't receive your notice at all. Families who were dealing with sudden emergencies like the death of a loved one and didn't have the ability to get their paperwork in time. A retiree who was bedridden as a result of the serious health issue. His wife was his care server for 24/7. When Mercer verified the paperwork, it went out. They received the paperwork. She was in the hospital with a serious infection. They spent the next 2 months in and out of
It says poor connection, video will resume automatically.
Oh,
his wife,
you can't see me? Oh, you can't.
Another retiree.
Can you hear it?
For 6 months.
Can you hear?
Out of a year.
No, it's going
He was traveling aboard.
Oh shit!
Goes in and out of the country.
Recall you.
When he came back in, his wife with dementia did not even notice that the paperwork was there. So he came in. He faxed the paperwork in. All I am asking for Trimet to do is, a lot of these families had substantial amount of money that they have to pay out of their pocket. Some of them up from $9,000 to $25,000.
All right, Shirley, hurry up.
Trimet to step up to the plate and reimburse these families. I know your staff was only doing what they was instructed to do, But Trimet has some help they should have worked with us. That's what I asked. I reached out to Mr. Presser and you, Doug, asking, when you do this stuff again in the future, just reach out for us for help. A lot of time we know where our retirees are.
They do.
We can make contact with them. If they haven't gotten a response back from a retiree, send it over to the union office and ask the union, hey, we haven't heard from X,
Well,
Y,
that
Z.
should be,
Can you give them a
they
call?
should do that. Why wouldn't they do that?
I personally would gladly call these people, locate them, and find out where they are. And I know I'm out of time, but I'm going to help you out, Bruce, and you, Doug, over there hiding. I can help you out with these folks on 174. You know I used to do that for 17 years in FOC. If you need help getting a bus out there, I would help you.
Right.
In a line,
Right, yeah, always trying to get rid of her.
AM, PM, mid-service, I know how to do that. So if you want help doing that, I'll come out there and help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you, Shirley. That wasn't very many thank yous.
Good morning, board members. I'm Lopez, and I'm with Local Environmental Justice.
Where is she is not, I just want to digress here for a second.
All right.
We believe that
she has not, or anyone from the union, showed up for almost over a year.
Has it been that long?
For most of these meetings.
Especially taking care of them.
And the number of assaults, other problems that are going on, I don't know where the union's been.
Yeah, I hear you.
And by the way, this problem that she just talked about was in opposing that the Mercer Company and Trimet agreed to do an extension for the paperwork, which is, I don't know, an extra couple of weeks now.
And it should be able to be fixed on demand anyway. If there's a problem, once they do find the retiree, they should just fix it on demand, you know? What's the big deal?
What they're looking for is birth certificates, and by the way, they won't take copies. They need the originals. I mean, I had to send back. I couldn't find I had to send back to New York City to get a certified copy.
Of what, your birth certificate?
Yes.
Really? They wanted that from you? You're the employee. Why did you need to provide that?
When I worked there, you needed all employees. Everyone had to prove that they were a U.S. citizen.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I didn't have any trouble with it. I got the stuff on time, though, and then I filed what they wanted. I had the paperwork.
Stakeholders and the input that we can provide.
I can't hear anything.
Yeah, let me turn it up. I've turned it down.
In favor of this ordinance today, and actually allow us to work with you in building what could be a more equitable fair enforcement policy.
Oh, so they were trying. Yeah, he was talking against the proposed.
All right. Tristan Isaac and David Davis.
Okay, now we got some action here finally. All right, let's see. Keith Davis is coming up. Let's see. Hold on. Where are you? Get over there.
Good morning, members of the board.
There's my man right there.
My name is Tristan. I do work with Bus Riders Unite and Opal Environmental Justice. I'm here today to comment on the proposed ordinance regarding Trimet's fair enforcement strategy. You may recall in September, a Multnomah County judge issued a ruling in the case of Ana Del Rocio, State versus Valderrama. In that case, the judge declared that Trimet's method of dragnet fair enforcement was of dubious constitutionality and effectively declared a moratorium on that tactic. What you may not be aware of is that since the court's ruling, Trimet road supervisors and fair inspectors, as well as officers of Portland Police Bureau's Transit Division, have continued to conduct unconstitutional fair sweeps in a flagrant violation of a court order. We all know that cops aren't accountable to their community, but you would think they would at least be accountable to judges and courts and the whole system. Apparently that's not the case. And that's not what accountability looks like.
Not around here, not anywhere.
Since starting to do work around transit justice with BRU and Opal, I've held the opinion that these sorts of fair sweeps are clearly unlawful. They essentially amount to and legal search and seizure when performed by a law enforcement officer. Despite no doubt being aware of this, being police officers themselves, transit police officers continue to leverage their authority and transit users' unfamiliarity with lawful procedure to intimidate riders into complying with legal orders. Transit police officers use this tactic to target individuals known to them, as well as marginalized groups, including people of color and the houseless, and in the course of an unauthorized search, arrest and detain them on charges unrelated to any alleged fare evasion. People profiled in this way are then fed back into the cultural complex into which so many of them are ensnared. This new ordinance is stated to codify the authority of Trimet employees and transit police officers to inspect fare, but the reality is this isn't about fare at all. The Transit Police Division exists first and foremost to support the operations of Portland Police Bureau and other law enforcement agencies' patrol officers.
It's a police state
function. Is essentially subsidizing a larger and more militarized police force.
Absolutely, he's right about
funds
that.
Meant for public transportation, and the officers of that division are exploiting their authority to abuse and misuse transit riders. Despite a widely touted pair of PSU studies absolving Trimet and the Transit Police Division of the inspector of bias, I have seen for myself that transit police actively profile people.
I mean, they are really not interested in fare advisors.
It's a social control.
Trimet's mandate to collect fare includes the authority to conduct unlawful searches. This is not the case, and I'd advise all transit riders to assert their rights in cases of unlawful orders. The Transit Police Division is corrupt and should be disbanded, and transit should be free. Thank you.
Yep, he's right. I agree with him, boy.
By the way, we never heard about what happened to the 19 people.
My name is Davis.
Hold on a minute. I want to see this one.
And I'm here today to talk about the Trimet unconstitutional fare enforcement. And a Multnomah County judge recently ruled that random stops to check fares are unconstitutional and a violation of the Oregon Constitution. You are brave little devils up there to challenge the judge's ruling. The Attorney General has said that she will not even consider Trimet's challenging the decision. You are the code writers of constitutional abuses, and you will all have a special place in history with dictators like Pinochet, Adolf Hitler, Mao, Stalin. Keep going on that. You guys are asleep at the wheel when it comes to constitutional rights. And there's little to no oversight of the transit police, which encompass 14 different police agencies. Do you guys even have anything that is an oversight board for these 14 agencies? Someone answer my question real quick?
No.
Keep going. Are you going to answer my question?
We're listening to you. Thank you.
Are you going to answer my question? No. No. Okay, I'll just keep going.
Thank you.
So you have little to no oversight of the transit police, and that's 14 different agencies from 3 different counties. And you guys are essentially running one of the biggest police state operations in the area. And these legal abuses are domestic terrorism, and Trimet is using the legal system to re-abuse citizens. This is a domestic violence awareness month too, just so you guys know. And you guys are acting like abusive partners, and you're basically doing what abusive partners do by ignoring judges' orders. You tie up resources, you bully the community just like a domestic violence perpetrator would bully their partner. Abusers often continue to assert power over victims by using the court systems as a weapon of abuse, using the court systems to intimidate, use legal maneuvers, and maintain control. Legal abuse happens whenever an abuser misuses the legal system to re-victimize. And you guys know that this is unconstitutional. You guys just know that you have all these resources in the world, and you can tie up the court systems, and if the citizens have a class action lawsuit and sue you for multi-millions of dollars, it'll just be another day for you guys. None of you guys are going to lose your pensions. None of you guys are going to lose anything. Maybe one of you might lose your job at the most. when the ruling comes down and this is all found to be the sham it is. So, you know, you guys just keep doing all the same stuff that domestic violence abusers do, but you do it on the citizens, and you target the homeless with all your sweeps that you do on the transit system. You know, you guys come in there and you do your little eugenics programs where you're going around and you specifically target people by race, by the clothes they're wearing, if they look like they're homeless. You guys are total eugenic style Nazis up there, okay? And you are totally unconstitutional. And also, there's plans in works to start doing protests at you guys' houses, okay? Because it's real easy to find people in their property these days online.
Thank you for the service.
Just expect protests at your house like Ted Wheeler gets and. All that. I'll take this bottle of water.
All right.
And I'll go vomit in my own mouth.
And the final person we have signed up this week is John Bledsoe, if I've got that right.
Did you get a thank you?
Coalition Neighborhood.
No thank yous. No thank yous.
Yes, my name is John Bilso. I'm John. Good morning. With the Gresham Coalition of Neighborhoods, I was on the original Powell Division task force to figure out how to get some transportation from PSU out to Mountain Community College. I declined to continue in that role when it turned into a citizens advisory committee because some of the layout and choices of station spacing were not quite what I expected them to be, and I don't think they are a very good value for the communities I represent in Gresham. My main concern, and I walked in a little bit late, so you may have heard some of these concerns, the stations between 181st and downtown Gresham are spaced sometimes either too close in the downtown area or way too far apart in the area in West Gresham, and I'm talking about 2/3 of a mile. When I walked in, there was an elderly woman speaking to this point. She was concerned about the altitude problems. Not only is Gresham going up a hill, it's also service on Division at that point. It's that Trimet line, when it becomes a bus rapid transit, will be serving interior neighborhoods that are even higher than Division or lower than Division at that point. So neighbors who are forced to take the bus, and I'm talking about the elderly community who no longer have vehicles, or younger people, students who are not really experienced with driving in cars. This may be their first opportunity to go to school via buses. They may not realize that they'll be traveling on some streets that are much, much too busy with vehicular traffic, but don't really have sidewalks to support pedestrian traffic. These streets were made back when Multnomah County was in charge of county roads, rural agricultural roads. So it's changed a lot now. This is all a residential community. The roads are arterial roads now, so they can be a real problem. I hope that people understand that, and when they talk with the federal government to try to get matching dollars, they don't throw these senior citizens and young people into a situation where they can be seriously injured. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
All right, well, so that took a little longer than I wanted to make sure everybody had an opportunity to talk to the board. So that's all who signed up. With that, I'm